There is a very interesting interview that took place on The Breakfast Club. Perennial Democratic/Green Party candidate Jill Stein, I should say left-wing Green Party candidate Jill Stein, appeared on The Breakfast Club. And Angela Rye, the longtime Democratic strategist, was also on The Breakfast Club. Now, I don't think it will come as a surprise to my audience that I have not seen Jill Stein as a serious person for a very long time. In fact, Jill Stein may be specifically to blame or credit for numerous Republican wins. I'll give you the math of that in a moment. There is a small slice of my audience, sort of like happened with Tulsi Gabbard, sort of like has happened to some with Jimmy Dore, where they have come to believe that the place where real left-wing values are represented and that the sorts of people that actually have the best interests of the country in mind are people like Jill Stein. Now, I happen not to believe that. I think she is not only running unserious campaigns, I think she's fundamentally an unserious person. And Angela Rye really exposed that. Take a look at the first minute or so of the interview.
The only thing that I would say to you is I think it's very dangerous rhetoric to say there are two sides of the same coin. I do think it's important for us to
dangerous
understand.
To the Democrats, yes.
I think it's dangerous to all of us, actually. Yeah, I don't have the privilege.
We disagree.
I understand. We do on a lot, but we also agree on a lot. But here's one thing I think we can agree on. Either you win or lose this election. There's really no in between. Dr. Stein, in 2002, you ran for governor of Massachusetts and you lost. In 2004, you ran for state representative in Massachusetts and you lost. In 2006, you ran for Secretary of the Commonwealth. You also lost. In 2010, you ran for governor again, this time against the first black governor in Massachusetts, Deval Patrick. You lost. In 2012, you ran against this country's first black president, and you got just less than 0.5% of total votes cast. In 2016, you ran against Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, losing significantly with 1.4 million votes cast for you, but 0 electoral college votes, which I agree with y'all needs to be abolished. But 136 million people voted. And you lost that election as well. So I want to know what the pathway to victory is for you in 2024. It can't just be.
I'd like to provide a different frame.
Shut your mouth.
There's not a
I want to provide.
And I also.
Can I respond, please?
And Kamala Harris supports.
Bring it back.
Respond.
Go ahead, Angela. Go ahead.
Well, I would like to respond. Yeah. This is the framing of the empire and the oligarchy and white supremacy and colonialism, which wants you to feel that resistance is futile.
There you go. She immediately says what Angela Rye just laid out is the view of white supremacy and colonialism and oligarchy and empire. Those are meaningless buzzwords that Jill Stein and the movement around her, and this is why I'm not a Green Party guy, because they love doing this stuff, they will weaponize those talking points against you. No matter who you are and no matter what you say, if you express opposition to what they're doing and point out their political incompetence. Jill Stein telling Angela Rye that she's parroting white supremacist talking points. By the way, if you're not watching, Angela Rye is black. Because she pointed out, you've never won anything. You've never won anything. And I don't understand your argument for why you should be president. It's a completely reasonable thing to say. This is a classic example of a progressive woman who is, and so a white progressive woman, although Jill Stein is Jewish, which white, there are people who say Jews aren't white and are white, but let's just call it, she's a white presenting progressive woman. She weaponized race in a political disagreement. Now, you all know this has happened to me. This has happened to me as a Jewish person. This has happened to me as a Hispanic immigrant from Argentina. I guess I'm white Hispanic. I don't know. Depends who you ask. Depends in what way they want to assail my character and attack my character. Okay. This is the worst of the supposed progressive left. Now, you all know I'm a progressive, but I don't do the identity politics stuff. This is not a show where I attack people for you're being oligarchical, you're being colonial or any of that stuff. And it's particularly funny that Jill Stein says Angela Rye is a puppet of the oligarchy when Jill Stein appears to be a puppet of the oligarchy. Here is a picture of Jill Stein sitting at a table with Putin at an event filled with oligarchs, buddy, rubbing elbows with oligarchs. Now, she's also, Jill Stein, she happens to be completely incompetent. And this is like, to add insult to injury, she was asked, how many members of the House of Representatives are there? She was like, I don't know, 600 something.
On Capitol Hill, it's very difficult to get what you're trying to achieve. So just for example,
Jill can talk about what you can do just from the executive
Dr.
office.
Ware,
yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just for an example, I'd love to know how many voting members in the United States House of Representatives?
So we have been blocked. The Democrats throw us off the ballot. They interfere. They put spies and infiltrators on our campaign.
How many voting members?
Compare us.
No. Answer the question. How many voting members in the United States House of Representatives, Republican, Democrat, and Independent? How many total?
How many total are there? What is it? 600 some?
No, it's 435.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It is hard to think of a less serious person in a less serious campaign. And to be frank, I would go with Marianne Williamson in a second over Jill Stein. I mean, you all know that I'm not a Marianne Williamson guy. But when I look at, if you say, I need an alternative on the left to what's in the Democratic Party from the top, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, whatever, I would go with Marianne Williamson in a second over Jill Stein. Marianne is way more genuine in her intentions. Marianne is way more knowledgeable. And Marianne is way more competent. Now, I've said before, I still think when the option was Biden versus Marianne in 2020, I still thought Biden was the better option. But Jill Stein doesn't even seem to know the damage and the chaos that follows her. And by the way, I don't think it's crazy to mention that in 2016, Jill Stein, you remember how small the margins were in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, which turned the election from Hillary to Trump. In Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, Jill Stein got very few votes, but just slightly more than the margin of victory for Trump. And one could argue that without Jill Stein, we would have had President Hillary Clinton, and we would have Roe v. Wade right now. And we're supposed to believe that Jill Stein is the one who really has the best interests of the left at heart. So I think Angela Rye did a great job. Come on, David, you're supporting Angela Rye because she's a tool of the Democratic Party, which pays you. I've never been a Democrat. I don't get any money from the Democratic Party. I think Angela Rye pointed out the sad and incompetent nature of Jill Stein and her perpetual and perennial losing campaigns.